where y'all are? Y'all are right here on Black Power Media. This is the Remix Morning Show right here, and I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and we got something for y'all, that boom bap breakfast. Now, let me introduce you to your host. We got no other than Burn It Down, Kim Bragg. And we got Kamal K. Franklin. Yeah.
Word. Yes.
Somebody ain't pay their light bill.
I mean, it's more than that. It's more than. Can you hear me even? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's going on, bro?
Well, my computer just crashed on me.
Yeah.
So I just had to bring on this Google laptop thing I brought my daughter. And it doesn't even have any plugins, so I can't plug anything in. And it's not although this camera is not that bad, but the camera, so it's all a mess right now. I'm not pleased.
I'm sorry to hear that, Kamal.
What does that have to do with the lights being off?
At the end of the day.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think it's going to get brighter as the sunlight comes up.
As the sun comes up. Yes, that's what we're relying on. The natural sunlight.
Okay, so everybody, we need your donations and help because we need the lights turned on at Kamal's house. What's going on?
I'm going to switch things. When we take the break, I'm going to switch things around, and I'll make it a little brighter up in here. But this was like fast. This was like a substitute thing.
Okay.
So Kim, you can't send me any stories because I can't do any stories. You have to send them to the Ear Doctor. I can't see any comments. All joke. I can't see nothing. But we have a guest on at 9.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a friend. It's a family. It's Too Black talking about the Pendleton 2 case.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I'm sorry, talking about what case?
Oh, it's a case of folks who are political prisoners based on their actions in prison fighting against some white supremacist guards. And of course, the court and the judges didn't see it that way. And so they gave them extended sentences because of them defending themselves in prison. So Too Black is going to give us an update. There was a good article that recently came out that highlighted some of their case. And so we're going to spend a couple of minutes talking about that.
Sounds great. Ear Doctor, lovely to see you as usual. You are nice and shiny and glowing. How was your weekend, sir?
My weekend was pretty good. I got to celebrate one of my friends from Trenton. He 50th birthday party, so we went and celebrated that. DJ'd, and they had an African dancing. They had comedians, they had vendors, they had food. It was a big thing. It was pretty.
Is he also a blood?
My favorite color has always been red. I don't know why.
Interesting.
But you know what I notice about black people, especially here in America, we do not wear bright colors.
Yeah, that's a no.
I mean,
you mean Black Americans? You don't mean Black people that are okay.
No. He specifically said Black Americans. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said Black people. I said, wait a second.
We colorful in other places.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think he's relatively correct. Yeah. In fact, we frown upon bright colors.
But I think
particularly the male hetero patriarchal dudes.
That to me sounds like an offshoot of white supremacy. Like Black people began to dress in more monochrome colors or neutral colors, so as not to draw attention to themselves, as not to stand out. You know what I mean? So that's probably derived from slavery that Black Americans don't wear colorful colors.
I think that's true.
It is. It is.
Because you still and again, it's what's embedded in all of us. When I see a brother in bright clothes, my first thing is like, that's a little bright.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is. You'd be like, but I like colors.
See, I don't. I just assume that they have, or their heritage likely begins other places, right?
I actually, you know what? I think that too a lot of times. I immediately go for that's a continental brother. Or
Caribbean brother.
Or Caribbean, yeah. And usually only with dudes for the most part, right? So I don't like if women wear bright colors, it doesn't faze you. But if I see a dude with bright colors,
Mm-hmm. And also big up to everybody that tuned in to Sundays and rocked out with me for the Tribe Called Quest De La Soul brunch. It was pretty nice. Got to eat some good food at the same time at the vegan restaurant, so it was all good. I mean,
and we're still on YouTube at this stage.
Oh,
yes, we are. Despite your efforts, Kamau, here we still remain. We're still on here. I know you've been trying. I know you've been working hard to try to get us put off again, but nope.
nope,
and
I got to go record the Atlanta to Palestine podcast that they did over right here on Black Power Media. So make sure y'all check that out too. So it was a nice long weekend of doing things.
And can I tell y'all, there's been some drama amongst my neighbors over parking. I said, oh no, not the parking wars, not the PG County edition of parking wars. So I'll be brief. So I have new neighbors, Black folks. I was very excited to see Black people moving into my neighborhood. I'm like, yes, we got more Black folks, right? So then my other neighbors are Afro-Latino, descended from a Caribbean country that I'm not going to specify, but so they have a real issue with people parking in front of their house. Like they will react as though you parked in their yard. If you park in front of their house, it's a street parking situation, right? So anyway, I look outside on Saturday and it's a bunch of cussing, like niggas is hollering, cussing each other out. I look outside, it's the Afro-Latinos in my yard hollering at my new neighbors, and then plot twist, here come the new neighbors with the bilingual cussing. I said, they Afro-Latinos too. I said, oh shit. I have never experienced in real life a bilingual cussing. Usually the bilingual cussing is one-sided, right? It's usually a Spanish-speaking person dipping in between English and Spanish, cussing at, a non-Spanish speaker. No, these motherfuckers was hitting each other with all kinds of Spanish cusses that I could not understand. I said, this is amazing. Like, I didn't even realize, man, I've been missing out.
You got your popcorn, and you were like,
Maticon, besa mi cula. All that stuff.
Anyway, I have already chosen sides in this squabble. So, I mean,
whose sides are you on?
I'm on the new neighbor side.
Yeah, you can't block somebody from parking in front of you. It's like, what am I supposed to do?
Dog.
I do that all the time.
You park somebody else in front of somebody else's house.
Well, not in my neighborhood because I got a driveway. But like if you go someplace in the street parking, that you just be parking in front of houses. But in Atlanta, it's like, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
As long as I don't block your driveway, what you mad at?
Oh Lord, right. Yeah, well, that's the old neighbor's argument that they don't have a driveway. Well, we don't have a driveway. I'm like, I get that, but at the same time, you guys have 4 to 5 cars associated with your house. Like, y'all can't hog up all the street parking. So I had to tell the new neighbors, I said, no, you guys are fine. Like the woman, she seemed like she felt bad that it was like a spectacle. I said, don't feel bad. Them motherfuckers are stupid. don't pay attention to them. I said, y'all are in the right here. But I told them, I said, be careful. I said, because them motherfuckers is nasty. They will start to leave nails and shit around your tires. So I told them,
really?
Dog, I'm telling you.
Y'all got a war going on outside.
It's a nasty situation, dog. Parking wars, PG County. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to see
might be some scratches.
Dog, I don't.
Damn, who would leave nails around? Damn.
So I'm not calling out their country of origin out of respect. But I'm just saying, dog.
Dominican. They're Dominican.
Oh shit! I'm not. No comment. No comment.
That's what I was thinking too.
Looks like they're Dominicans.
No comment.
I'm just saying.
They get busy, yo.
Yeah.
Them Puerto Ricans
will throw down.
Play, yo.
Yeah, they'll throw down. Yeah.
Dog, it's wild.
It's not off limits. It's not. Nothing's off limits. Yeah.
Dog, it's the mom. The mom has got to be our age, right? And then it's the daughter who is early 20s or whatever. I'm like, y'all are wilding over our parking space. Can y'all please calm down? Nope. There's no calming down. It is ratcheting up.
We don't have them problems down here in Atlanta. Everybody got driveways and people can hardly even parallel park down here. So it's not a big problem when it comes to parking.
Well,
sometimes I'm really good. Yeah, being that I got trained to drive down here, so parallel parking wasn't on the list of the menu of things you had to learn apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I can be really cool with it. Then sometimes I'm like, I'll start my parallel parking thing. Then halfway through, I'm like, fuck it. I'm just go find another place to drive.
And now they cheat and they got these little cameras and stuff in the cars. I'm like, really?
Is it cheating though, ear doctor, or is it technology assistance?
I guess.
He's like old school. He's like, when I learned how to drive.
That's like how all
Really
these
had to learn how to
DJs is
drive.
like, yo, man, I had the vinyl and this, that, and the third. Now y'all just come with your little laptop and technology.
Exactly.
Let's blame it on
Not even a little
technology.
iPod they'd be using.
Exactly. So
Yeah, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by the new world DJs. I'm not impressed by it.
What's there to be impressed by? It's DJ is not just record selection; it is skill. It is skill that is on a scale, right? Like not everybody's a good blender, not everybody's a good scratcher cutter. You know what I'm saying? That's why the ear doctor is so exceptional. You know what I'm saying?
He is good at his craft. I give him credit. You know what I mean?
Man, listen,
Yeah.
the
I don't like to
opening
do it, but I give him credit.
the opening DJ for that 50th birthday party. Oh my God, the transitions was not there. As soon as I got on, then the dance floor got packed and stayed packed to the end of the night. I was like, man. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what a DJ does. Like a DJ talks with his hands, gets the people up out their seats,
and gets on the mic a little bit too. I mean, because I come from an MC background, so I was an MC before a DJ, so I know how to get on.
Sometimes I only like a little of that. Sometimes I think DJs like, can go too far with every record, particularly if it's like a mixtape DJ.
Oh,
I was like, every record I got to hear your imprint. I got to know who you are. Every record.
I know exactly who you're talking about because there was a particular DJ who was produces big records, and I'm like, these records would be awesome if this motherfucker wasn't screaming all over.
Hey, you would hate to go to a soca party then, because oh my goodness, they take the whole music down like.
That's different.
But I'm still with him. Dancehall DJs back. I was like, yo, B, I know who you are. I know. But I wanted to hear that song. I wanted to hear that. I didn't want to hear you. I wanted to hear what like the Beamer. Who took the keys to the Beamer? I can't hear who took the keys to the Beamer. What? Because you're talking all over that shit. I'm not happy.
Oh man.
It's getting a little brighter already. Look, the sun's coming up. Daylight savings.
Why can't you just like flick the light switch on the wall though, my guy? Like, what's going on?
That's what I said.
You only turn the lights on for Democracy Now! And Roland Martin.
Wow, he put the blazer on and the whole get up. You know what I'm saying? He be looking mad smart. I'm surprised he didn't pull out the CVS glasses and everything.
Oh shit!
Wow.
Okay. If this is Roland Martin, you turn the light on.
Oh, good. Oh, they go to CVS glasses.
The intellectual. That's the intellectual thing. You got to kill him with the intellectual thing.
Intelligent hoodlum over here.
You know what I'm saying? I talk my shit.
Word. Well, yo, let's go ahead and take our first break. This is the Remix Morning Show, and make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe and all that stuff right down there as we get to it and get y'all some news and all that other stuff right here on the Remix Morning Show. What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome out. Thank you all for tuning in right here on Black Power Media to the Remix Morning Show. Make sure y'all hit that like button, that subscribe button, and share it, because Sharon's Karen, sharing. Also, go to patreon.com, drop some change on Black Power Media, and we're going to keep this thing going. We got some things. I hope y'all keep coming through because we love y'all, no doubt. With that said, let's go ahead and get to the weather. Let's talk about what's going on in different areas. It is, I really don't understand. It's really cold, hot, cold. I don't know what's going on, but I start in the ATL right here where I'm at. We got a high today of 51 degrees. Next, let's take it to my hometown, Trenton, New Jersey. Blah, 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 blah. Big up Trenton. They got a high today of only 38 degrees. It is brick up in Trenton. Now, talking about brick, let's take it to the Midwest, to Detroit. What up, though? You know what I'm saying? They got a high today of 34 degrees. That is freezing, too. Now, let's take it over a little bit to the down southwest coast side of Denver, Colorado. Now, check this out. They going from 31 degrees today to 61 degrees. A whole 30 degrees of change. It's going to be crazy in Denver. So big up to all my people out in Denver. Next, let's take it to Los Angeles. Los Angeles got a high today of 58 degrees. And I'm telling you, it's crazy around here. If you want to go and get warm, I would suggest that you take a trip down to Jamaica, where they have a high today of 85 degrees. And now let's take it to the motherland, no other land. Let's take it to Fez, Morocco. I've never been there, but I always seen the Fezes and was like, oh, okay, so that's where it comes from. 73 degrees is the high. Now that's pretty chill. But I tell you what wasn't chill and a lot of people wasn't cool with this right here. That's right. We got to see the Oscar thing go down, and we got to see Jamie Lee Curtis win, and Angela Bassett was like, what the? That's right. But here's the unpopular opinion for me. They was right. Jamie Lee Curtis should have won that Oscar. Because how many times, honestly, have we seen Angela Bassett as a mother crying? I'm just saying. Now, when we talking about original film, this Everything Everywhere All at Once it was original film, and Jamie Lee stepped out of her box. So that's why you get awards. You got to step out of the box and stop putting Angela in the same box where she's a crying mother. Like for Biggie, like for how many other films did she cry as a mother? Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to the Remix Morning Crew. Let's chop it up. You know how we do. Let's go. Go.
Yo, easy with all the Angela slander, bro. What's going on?
Was it slander?
Where did this even come from? First of all, these awards.
She cried. Wait a minute. She cried in what was the movie? She blew up the car. What? Wait Until Exhale. Tina Turner.
Yes.
Tina Turner. Boys in the Hood. What?
Crying Boys in the Hood.
One of them black shoot 'em up. She was somebody's
Boys
mom.
in the Hood?
Yes, she was Lawrence.
She was the mama.
She was the mama. But she had a supporting role. Like she was in the movie, but just really for a few scenes.
Well, the fact that they didn't give her the Oscar for Tina Turner, though.
Thank you.
They ripped her off big time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now that was a full plate of acting right there. You got to see the ups, downs, the highs, the lows, but crying as a mom, come on, we've seen that before.
But Jamie Lee Curtis is a cop lover, so you know.
But Ear Doctor, I'm certain I didn't see Wakanda Forever. I'm assuming that's what she was nominated for, Miss Bassett, for Wakanda Forever. I'm sure she did more than just cry, Ear Doctor. And by the way,
I think she died too.
The Academy Awards
cried and died.
They're known to give makeup awards, right? So for example, Denzel got the Oscar for Training Day. He didn't deserve no damn Oscar for Training Day, but he did deserve one for The Hurricane and for a couple other previous roles, Malcolm X being one of them, of course. They were supposed to give Angela that goddamn Oscar, man. Like, she got robbed the year that she played Tina Turner, and what's Love got to do with it?
But not this year. That's just like Halle Berry having to do light porn just to get an Oscar. I mean, it's really like crazy, and people really. I understand you get a whole bigger paycheck once you get one of these awards.
That was such a terrible movie.
What
was it? Monsters Ball?
Not Black actors. The Oscar effect does not have the same effect for Black actors. And in fact, Louis Gossett Jr. would tell you that when he won the award for, I think it was A Soldier Story or something like that, or Officer and the Gentleman. Officer and the Gentleman. Lou Gossett said his phone didn't ring after that. Lou Gossett said he didn't get shit.
Nope.
Wow.
No, that's true. Like, it's still, I mean, like, I think all the rave, I didn't even hear about that movie until I saw the movie that won all the Oscars or yesterday, whatever. I was like, I didn't even know what that movie was. I had no idea. So that's how out of it I am. But I agree but like, Black actors don't always see a jump.
No, very seldom. Very seldom. I mean,
and the Asian actors that won yesterday, they'll soon know that. They'll find that out themselves.
Probably.
They would definitely find that out.
But if I'm not mistaken, one of the actors from Everything Anywhere All in whatever, he was Short Round from the Indiana Jones series, right? He that was that dude. Right. So I think. Do you remember Indiana Jones in what was the second? Was it
and Goonies? Wasn't he the one kid in Goonies too?
Yes,
the Asian kid in Goonies. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he hasn't acted a lot since he was a kid, but he said it's because of the kind of roles that Hollywood has offered, Asian American actors. He said it wasn't nothing piqued his interest, or so to speak. But anyway, this was apparently a departure from that and very successful.
And didn't that bloated dude won for best
for makeup?
No, the dude, he went for best actor.
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, that was for makeup, though, wasn't it?
No, he went for best actor.
He got the best actor. The
I
Whale.
thought, yeah, which could fit how he looks, because that bloatedness is really...
No, knock it off, Kamal. No body shaming.
I'm saying when we
get yourself together, man. What you over there sniggling at?
No, I mean it's just the when I seen the then they showed the movie, the trailer for The Well, and I was just like, oh my God, I just started cracking up. I was just like,
what is that movie about even? Does anybody know? I don't even know what that movie's about.
I think it's about, go ahead, your doctor. You know, your explanation might be better.
I just thought it was about a dude that ate too much that couldn't leave the house. I don't know.
Really? Is that what it's about?
I don't think it's ate too much per se, but
it is about somebody who's obese.
Very overweight, yes.
Oh, I actually was thinking like he was a fisherman someplace. I actually thought it was like a Jonah and the Whale kind of story or some shit.
Oh, wow.
But the fact that they called it whale, I was like, wow. And then he was crying, like wailing.
But he went, he was wailing.
What, in his acceptance speech or in the movie?
No, in the movie. When I see the trailer,
he said he was wailing in the whale as he portrayed the whale.
He was wailing in the whale.
Like your expectation that actors shouldn't cry in movies is very weird. It's like, oh, they do.
Yeah, I think that's what they probably win the award for. Is more
crying. Just like what's the other sister? How to Get Away with Murder? When she gets them snot bubbles going, listen, come on.
But she won an Oscar for what again? What did she win an Oscar for?
Who? Viola Davis. She didn't win an Oscar this time around.
No, but in the past she's won one.
Did she win for what was the movie she was the main? The Help.
That's what she won for?
I don't know.
If it ain't a slave movie, if it ain't crying,
domestic,
I tell you, or if it's soft porn, you know what I mean? Just forget about it. I'm done.
But that's to me all the more reasons why we should be disinvested in the outcomes of these award shows. This is why people shit. You know what I'm saying?
She won for Doubt.
What was Doubt? What is that?
That was the one when she was dealing with a kid dealing with the nuns and all that stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
Meryl Streep was in that movie. That was a good movie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, good. It was good.
Ooh, Viola, she did act in that one.
And she cried too, did she?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Was it her child being?
She cried.
I mean, was it the child being?
Yes, abused by.
Yeah. I mean, you can cry in that.
Wait a minute. She went for. We got all types of people giving us wrong.
It says no. She went for Fences. Maybe she got two. I don't say. How come we talk about something we just don't give a fuck about? I mean, it's obviously no one here is a movie.
Why?
Where's Jared when we need him?
Since we don't know shit, I guess we go do some news.
All right, wait, no.
Uh-oh.
So, you can't send me before you go. Stop looking like that. Badass glasses on and shit. You can send me stuff, Kim. I think I can pull those up here.
Yeah.
You got news stories.
You access Erica's run sheet.
I don't have access to the run sheet.
Okay. Okie dokie.
Because it's not my computer.
I'll pull that up. But yeah.
But there's nothing on it anyway, because Erica.
Yeah, that's right. She's gone.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
That's right. Kim don't read the emails. All right, I'll catch y'all on the next break.
I see the emails. I'm aware emails have been sent. Now you want me to open them?
You want me to look at them?
And look at the contents? Come on, you're asking a lot now.
I tried to look at them, then my computer died.
Right. Okay. Shall we move onward and slap that map? I know the chat is ready. Happy Tuesday, Remixers. It's the Remix Morning Show, still broadcasting here on your YouTube streets. No thanks to Kamal K. Franklin. What's up, y'all? It's the Remix Morning Show here on Black Power Media. This is the best, most revolutionary, informative, and hilarious morning show on the YouTube streets right now. My name is Kim Brown. That is my homeboy, in beige, Kamau K. Franklin. Behind the scenes is the ear doctor pushing the buttons, playing the cut, and keeping us moving super fresh. Guys, please come in and hit that thumbs up on the video. Please and thank you. Help us ride the algorithms. We have over 200 remixers rocking with us right now. We certainly appreciate y'all and all y'all support. Big up to everyone that's watching us on Twitter, on Twitch, and on Facebook as well. It's Tuesday, March the 14th. It's Pi Day, Kamau. It's one of those days, one of those random days in America that seems to be every single day on the calendar that today is the blank day. 3.14, the number that goes on to infinity. Why? Why does this number get a
pie?
day?
I thought you meant like apple pie.
But that's what it turns into. It turns into a commercialization of this number oddity, right? So now it's a pizza sale day, and if you go get you an apple pie 2 for $10, whatever the fuck. Like America doesn't miss a chance to commercialize and consumerize every single day for something.
It's all about getting you to buy something. That's completely correct. Like, put that wallet out. On Dr. King's birthday, there's a white sale. You know what I'm saying? You can go buy your.
That's intentional, right?
I think it is. Yeah, I think that they're definitely, they're definitely stalking us a little bit with that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why I'm not. I understand the movement that got Juneteenth recognized as a federal holiday, but I just know what this is. I'm like, okay, so there's going to be Juneteenth sales. And everybody Black who has an hourly service job is going to be forced to work on Juneteenth, serving white folks who have the day off. Like, hard pass. I say nay unto that.
Yeah, I'm still mad at that. That just kind of snuck up. I still feel like I had no idea that people were advocating for a Juneteenth federal holiday. And then one day I just looked up and there was like some signing ceremony at the White House, and I'm like, what are they, like Juneteenth? What does that mean? It's like it's a special commemoration, or just they're commemorating Juneteenth or something at the White House. And that alone I thought was garbage. And then it was like, no, it's a national holiday. It's like Juneteenth is now a national holiday. I had no idea, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
People I know who still have like real regular jobs expressed to me their disgust when they would get the out of office emails from their white coworkers. In observance of the Juneteenth holiday, I will not be returning in. What? I'm sorry, Rebecca. Get your ass into the office. This ain't your day off. Go to fuck to work. Anyway, I'm sorry. Nope. I get excited about that. My bad. But anyway, Kamau, I have just promptly zipped you a single story. I will dig up some more stories. Sometimes, anyway, in perseverance and preservation of my mental health, I will take breaks. I will take detox breaks from consuming the news, because the news is usually bad. It's all bad. So I unplug from time to time. So I don't really know what's going on in the world. I'm assuming some shit's going on in the world. But anyway, I sent you this story because I saw this morning on rollingstone.com. And the issue around abortion restrictions continues to grow more serious for pregnant people across the country. It's just America doesn't like for people to have rights. They don't want Indigenous people to have rights, Black people to have rights, disabled people to have rights. And now that they've extended this to all the women's in half the country can't get access to abortion care is just very telling. Don't ever let nobody from America, if you guys are watching us from abroad, don't ever let no Americans come tell y'all about democracy. We have the freest society. No, the fuck we don't. Women can't even dictate what they do with their own bodies. And now the South Carolina legislature is trying to take that even further. 21 South Carolina GOP lawmakers propose the death penalty for women who have abortions. Kamau, the death penalty for women who have abortions. The death penalty for women who have abortions. What?
And not just it's not like 3 randoms, right? Or 3 randos. It's 21 so far. 21 GOP lawmakers have already signed on to co-sponsor the bill. So that's not even like it's it's 1 or 2. It could be a jokey story. You can ignore it because it's never going to happen. That's not the case here. It's 21, which means it's 21 in building.
That's right.
Whether or not it passes this time around, it has enough support that some people will run on it. Some people will campaign on it. Folks will bring it back year after year after year. If they start to see a slow buildup, then that means it's going to keep on being put forward until they eventually try to get it passed. And no one will see the irony in killing in a so-called bill that's supposedly protecting unborn life, because all life is sacred, and actually deciding that you're going to make a penalty of abortion the killing of the mother, the killing of a person a woman who decided to abort as opposed to have a child. No one will see the irony in that whatsoever. And you're right. And so it's all about making people subservient to other folks, what they think their value should be, what they want to impose. And it's always the people who are less able, because we don't have to be honest, the weapons, and the resources to defend. They become the targets of something like this. So this is life in America.
Yes, and it raises the issue that Republican lawmakers like to talk about, the issue of personhood. So the South Carolina Prenatal Equal Protection Act of 2023 would amend the state's code of laws, redefining, quote, person to include fertilized egg at the point of conception. So the egg becomes a person. Can I claim this person on my taxes if it's still in utero? You know what I'm saying? Can this person can this 6-week-old zygote of a fetus, can it receive, a social security number so I can claim it as a person? I mean, what are we talking about person here?
No, that's exactly it. So the logical conclusion would be that, right? Where's the social security number for that person? Right.
And it says it says so after the fertilized egg is rendered a person at the point of conception, that affords that zygote, quote, equal protection under the law, under the homicide laws of the state, up to and including the ultimate punishment of death. And it says the bill was authored by Representative Rob Harris, who is a registered nurse and a member of the Freedom Caucus. Is that right? Yep. And it has attracted 21 co-sponsors to date. And it says 2 former co-sponsors, Representative Matt Lieber and Representative Kathy Landing, they asked to be removed. Yes, they have asked that their names be removed as sponsors to the bill. Okay, I wonder why they wanted to be removed. But regardless, so South Carolina actually was trying to make its abortion laws more strict, but it was unable to pass, I think, through the legislature. So while they still have very strict abortion restrictions in place, they were trying to make them stricter. but they said they'll say that for next session. But this is part of that. And it just really makes me, when you talk about the criminalization of women's actions and women's decisions, like this is, I can't say it's heading into scary territory, Kamal, because it's already in a scary territory, and it makes me wonder about, parents of young people who are able to get pregnant in these states. Like if something happens and you're dealing with a unexpected pregnancy, all the hoops and all the shit that you're going to have to go through in order to get abortion care or abortion services for your pregnant child, it is onerous.
And then what's the other thing that's happening? I'm sorry. The other thing that's happening across the country is some states are trying to outlaw abortion pills. That's right. So like there's several states now that are saying that even if, and again, that's become something that Walgreens has on its own decided, because it was scared of the right wing, to start limiting, if not completely denying, access to abortion pills in some states. And so already the capitulation has gone further than not just are we outlawing or making it a state by state case, but you knew that these states they're not going to stop at that victory that they for them a victory. They're going to go even further now, which is legal. Like, so you can't even, if medicines are sent via the mail, it's almost, if they find that out, they'll prosecute the person who received it and potentially punish the company or industry that sent it. And so that means that these companies and industries will immediately capitulate to the right-wing fever and decide, hey, we're not going to send this. We're not going to send this at all. So depending on what state you are, your ability to receive medicines, certain medical care will be limited on its face. And so we really are constructing this idea of going back to a time period where the rights of women are severely restricted to the point of being jailed because of how they take care of their bodies.
If you have not already deleted your period tracker off of your phone, pregnant people or people who have the ability to get pregnant, please take a moment to do so. I did that even though I don't live in an abortion restrictive state. I still deleted that data because number one, you could travel someplace. You just don't know what the penalties will eventually be, even if you are from a place where abortion is perfectly legal. Should you travel to a place where it's not legal and whatever happens, law enforcement could be demanding this very personal biological data of you. So let's get that period tracker off the phone, period people. so the feds can't track your ovulation and all that, because apparently all of that information is going to be on the table when it comes to prosecuting women or attempting to prosecute people who may be seeking abortion services.
Can you imagine that? They're going to have they're going to have offices within a district attorney or state prosecutors, which is literally going to probably be looking at exactly at your stated information. If you say something online on your social media that talks about quote unquote losing a baby, or you didn't get your period or something like that, but there's people who will probably be tracking that information to see if you come to term.
Woo.
Or to ask you questions about maybe, you know what I mean? Like this obviously is not there yet, but the possibilities are there that people will go this far with it, that they will actually have these offices, because what they start to look for, and it will be a poor Black woman, will be the first one that they go after. They're
or an indigenous woman. There's already an indigenous woman in Oklahoma who is in jail behind a miscarriage right now. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. That's exactly where I'm heading at. Is that's going to be the thing. They're going to find these examples to scare other people, and the folks they're going to find, like you said, they're going to be indigenous, Black. They're going to be folks who, again, don't have the resources to defend themselves, won't be able to afford certain representation, and then they're going to hit them hard with something, and then that'll be the notice for everybody else about how serious they are about limiting people's rights and punishing and repressing people for making decisions about their own bodies. So they're definitely going to be these places where these offices and these county prosecutors, these state prosecutors, who the only way they're going to find out this information is by having either conservative doctors who are willing to break the ethical oaths to pass that information on to the state, and or by monitoring you and what you say online, monitoring your medical choices in terms of the pharmacies you use. All of that can, like, if the law is that abortions are illegal past a certain time period, then those things are potentially, it can be subpoenaed, right? You can get a conservative prosecutor who goes in front of a conservative judge who signs the subpoena to have all those records turned over. So that's where we go. That's what we're moving towards.
And the fact that we can very easily see that future, coming down the path, coming down the pike is very scary. When I look at Ron DeSantis in Iowa over the weekend, making a push, DeSantis is going to sign on to a national abortion ban, and abortion rights advocates say that is the goal here. The issue with the Dobbs decision, punting abortion rights back to the state. That's what the GOP said that they wanted to do. Nope. What they really want is an all-out national ban on abortion. So once they get a fanatic like DeSantis back into the White House, they're going to push for that. Now they got the court exactly the way they want it. All they need is the right Hitler, the right Hitler sitting in the Oval Office to pull the trigger and make sure that abortions, women in this country, people who can get pregnant in this country, no longer have access to abortion.
And you're right; they're going to start off with an executive.
Is this to force the labor, working people to continue to produce a labor force, or is this about persevering the white race? Like, what is this? Like, what is this even all about?
Yeah, I mean, I say it's a little bit of it. I think it's more of the religion the conservative religion. And remember, this was even a big issue 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, I think there's something that some other people bring up, not 20, I mean, like 40 or 50 years ago, I should say, in terms of being something that's heightened on the GOP scale of ideas that it pushes forth into the public. This became one of those issues that it's conservative base, it's conservative religious base move towards. And then they decided to make it a policy issue where it became about a right to life. And then I think that you know, it kind of became this filler position that was a pushback against what they would consider to be womanist and or feminist ideas, too much progressiveness. And it took hold, particularly again in these conservative fundamentalist churches, which is a large part of, particularly again in the South and Midwest white communities, working class poor white communities, who even if some people practice abortions, they adhere to this religious doctrine in a lot of ways, or this rhetoric easily gets sort of morphed into people's everyday beliefs, and then it starts to get pushed, and then it reached a point where it became part of the right-wing ideological playbook of pushing no abortions, restricting women's health care, talking about linking this stuff to family, which immediately starts to link it to race, linking it to nuclear family, so the traditional way in which America was run. All of that now is taken center stage in terms of this larger playbook that conservatives and right wingers use to feed their base. So, and I was gonna mention, like you mentioned DeSantis. So if they get in, they'll start off if they don't have control of Congress, then they'll start off with an executive order, which will work its way through courts. But the idea is first to normalize it again with executive orders, and then if they control Congress, they'll pass laws that start to limit the ability to sell. And again, they'll do this through the executive order too, but it'll codify the ability for pharmacies and big drugstores to sell where places already have bans against abortion. Mm-hmm. And so it'll say, we'll start there. It's like, okay, now legally speaking, you can't sell in those places. And and the conservative courts will find a way to uphold it. And then they'll move further. And I think you're right. Like if they control Senate, state, and Senate, Congress, and the White House, they would definitely move towards an actual national ban that's codified in law. And again, I think the courts will find a reason, particularly the Supreme Court, to uphold that as a ban which will be considered constitutional, as opposed to what they just did with Roe v. Wade and reversing it.
Mm-hmm. And men, if you're listening and you think that this ain't a you issue, oh, yes, it is. It is absolutely a you issue as well. I mean, this is a community issue. If people who can get pregnant don't have the ability to decide for themselves what they want to do, or if God forbid, for whatever reason, they may not be able to bring a pregnancy to term, and abortion is the medical solution to that. Fellas, this is a y'all issue too. You know what I'm saying? These are your women. Well, not your women per se, but you understand, your family members, your friends, your loved ones, your daughters. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about what this kind of future would mean for the future of your child. So be paying attention to this, especially if it's happening in places where you already live at, which is.
And one last thing, I mean, suppose you guys have come to a consensus that you and whomever is pregnant with your mutual child, that you guys have decided, or is pregnant at the time, that you don't want to have a child. So you're definitely involved no matter what. So these are the things this is not just a woman's issue.
No.
But it obviously the struggle is going to be led by women, but it's something that everybody else needs to participate in, because it's going to have that kind of impact on larger society.
Yep. Mm.
Okay. I have a second story that it was interesting to me because of a lot of ways in how it was portrayed in the media. So internet. I know we don't have Jackie with us. But we're going to talk a little international stuff right now.
How international? Where part of the world are we in?
We are going to what's considered the Middle East and China. So apparently over the weekend, of course, Saudi Arabia and Iran decided to exchange ambassadors again. to bring down the fighting that's happened in between the nations, particularly over the last 7 years, where there's been different exchanges. Obviously, Saudi Arabia purely, for the most part, has been, purely an American ally. And Iran has been what you can consider part of the resistance to Western dominance in the Middle East. And there have been several areas of fights, including obviously Iraq, Yemen, Lebanon. So there's
real quick, Kamal. So you're saying, I'm sorry. So wait, so Saudi Arabia and Iran did not have normalized diplomatic relations?
Not over the last 7 years. Over the last 7 years.
Okay.
Basically, after Saudi Arabia killed a Shiite clergy person, and then there was a reaction in Iran at the embassy of Saudi Arabia. They've closed off diplomatic relations, removed ambassadors from each other's nations, and have continued to have proxy wars around and in the Middle East, including, again, Syria, Yemen, Iraq, and some other places, which has obviously been something that's helped to isolate Iran in terms of the Western media and Western press. Over the last few years, Saudi Arabia in particular has been trying. At first, Saudi Arabia had a very hawkish foreign policy where it thought the United States was going to come to its rescue militarily on a lot of these issues. But the United States wants to fight proxy wars with Iran and isolate it, but it doesn't want to get into a full-blown war with Iran. And at the same time, of course, Israel has been working with Saudi Arabia to try to establish diplomatic relations officially, which would be a big coup d'etat for Israel to be considered not only a player in the Middle East, but to sort of stabilize its relationships and to make it seem like it's a normalized country in the Middle East, i.e. for folks to ignore the situation with Israeli taking over more and more Palestinian land and subjugating Palestinians to basically more and more apartheid. And so the shift was that most nations apparently were surprised that this announcement was going to happen, that China, in terms of negotiations, helped bring forth something again that Saudi Arabia particularly has been pushing for, because it knows that it can't, even with Western help, or without enough Western help, it can't outgun Iran, which has set up some sophisticated militia operations in terms of supporting indigenous movements and making sure that is a way in which they fight back against Western imperialism and dominance in the area. Saudi Arabia a few years ago, particularly when it comes to the Houthis in Yemen, was bombing the Yemenis, bombing the Houthis, and apparently with Iranian help, at least according to news reports, launched a drone attack and explosions that took out half of Saudi Arabia's ability to produce oil for a short period of time. That really scared them because there was no real reaction from the United States, and they thought the United States was in their corner. So all that to say is that Saudi Arabia has backed off some of its most sort of aggressive foreign policy measures and has decided to now go back to the diplomatic table. But the point is that they came to an agreement through China, not through the United States. And so the fact that they do it to China has now got the Western media in an uproar, like one of those things in which they're saying, "Oh, the United States has lost the Middle East," as if it was ever theirs to lose.
Oh, man.
But again, it's the narrative of somehow that because China was able to do this and it's bringing us to a more multipolar world, the Western media is freaking out because it's like China has influence. Oh my God, not that, never that. So a lot of the media has been covering this story through the lens of not only talking about China's influence and the loss of American influence, but putting it in a posture of Chinese aggression. So even a story by the AP, China wants bigger global role after Saudi Iran ideal. And so anything that's considered anything that, again, upsets Western dominance, Western institutions, that doesn't make them basically the giver of all law or the giver of all rules is somehow looked upon as not only upsetting the world order, but something that's negative and needs to be fought back against. And again, corporate media immediately gets into its role of pushing back on this, trying to force the United States, which doesn't need to be forced per se, but trying to push the United States to be more active in trying to isolate China, so that it doesn't become again a place where if there's issues in the world, as opposed to having the United States settle it in a way that's advantageous to Western interests, to go to China and find some other avenues of settling certain issues in the world. So just wanted to bring that up.
Appreciate that, Kamal. I mean, there's so much anti-China rhetoric just very casually floating through the mainstream American press. There was a story, and I can't remember which network it was, one of the big three, had a reporter, embedded on a Navy ship in the South China Sea, and they had this very sensational footage of a Chinese air fighter brushing up again. I don't know what the fuck the term it was, but flying closely towards, alongside an American fighter jet. And they're like, look how close, look how dangerous the Chinese fighter is. It's like, but y'all are in the South China Sea. It's not like y'all in the Gulf of fucking Mexico. Like, China has every right to take a defensive posture against a hostile foreign military entity that is in its sphere of influence. Imagine if there was Chinese Navy fighters off the coast of the Bahamas or off the coast of Puerto Rico. The United States would be ready to let the chopper sing in every meaningful way possible. But we as Americans and the sheepish American public who lack the full awareness about how these geopolitical things really work, we're like, oh man, look how aggressive China is being. Yeah, China is being, I wouldn't even say aggressive, I would just say a tiny bit defensive, because of the US's presence. And it was some shit that just happened here in DC yesterday. It was Biden, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and whoever the Australian Prime Minister are, is they just stood together. The three, I will say the three whites, but Rishi might as well be fucking white because he carry himself like he wants to uphold.
He supports Western interest.
All of the Western interest. That is correct. So the three of them motherfuckers stood up together, just announced some nuclear submarine deal, because anyway, it was some stupid shit. Wasn't it France trying to buy some shit, or Australia was trying to buy some shit, and then somebody got mad because America fucked it up? Regardless, but anyway, the imperial powers stood together once again. The main imperial power and its colonies, its children, but one of the children is bigger than the mother, or whatever. Regardless, so anyway, so they still on this nonsense.
Australia is trying to buy nuclear powered submarines, or get nuclear powered submarines from the United States to do exactly that, to put more fear into China. Like, look, we're going to move these bigger weapons, these more high powered weapons, these, i.e. potentially nuclear weapons, closer and closer to your border. The same way Russia, in terms of how the Ukraine war started, is being surrounded by NATO. These same rules apply in terms of how they're trying to continually surround China with more advanced weapons, more military bases, and then again, like you said, call China the aggressor, right? And there's no doubt that China is reacting to what it sees as close to 100 years of being hemmed in, or dominance from Western supported Asian nations, which is not to say that China is always correct in terms of how it's pushing back. Some of its disputes with Vietnam and other places points to bigger issues, regional issues that have been ongoing again for centuries. But there is no doubt that China is trying to push back from being surrounded and hemmed in. And look at what the West is doing, the United States, like they're cutting off technology for supercomputers and all that kind of stuff. Again, when China was willing to open itself up to be the labor force of the world, particularly Western corporations, and to be the place where folks can come in and work there, and they can sell their products and make their products for cheap, the West was all about its form of capitalist development. So as long as it was subservient to Western interests, the moment China decided to develop a national policy that says, you know what, we could do more than make toys, again, no matter how people feel about the ways in which they're doing it, but we can compete in other important industries, other scientific fields. The moment it started to ramp those things up and have a more sophisticated economic strategy, that's when it all of a sudden the West was like, oh wait a minute now, you can make toys, but you can't get the technology to make supercomputers, or you can't get the technology to make sophisticated and advanced weaponry, or you can't have the technology that challenges the corporations that we built up that sells to your part of the world. All of that is part of what this new so-called Cold War is that China has the nerve to take resources away from the West because their industries are being built up, and they're producing things again that the West thinks they naturally deserve to be in charge of. And China's like, well, who decided that but you, right? Who decided these institutions after World War II, post-Bretton Woods, but you decided these things. And so China's fighting back against that, and the West is trying to demonize it and put it in its place.
You know, one thing that I think we should also be paying attention to is the U.S. Congress, with, I think, some favorable signaling from the White House, really, I think, intends to move forward to ban TikTok as an app. And I think that's going to get Gen Z the fuck in the streets, though. Kamau, watch. All the kids from your child's elementary school is going to walk out. They're going to walk out of class. You're going to see elementary and middle schools just clear out. The children are going to riot if the U.S. government bans TikTok. I'm trying to tell you. And it's one of my friends who was like, I don't see how they could do it. Shit. Yes, the fuck they could.
Yes, they can, yeah.
I totally see them creating a way to do this. And we've already sort of seen the beginnings of this with a number of state governments. For example, before Larry Hogan left the governorship here in Maryland, he made it state law that state employees could not have TikTok specifically as an app on their government issued devices, right? And so and my friend was like, well, that's okay. Well, that's different. I said, no. I think that they could create some, this was a hostile foreign entity controlled technology, and they will compel Apple and Google to remove it, from their stores. So I think that is more of a potential thing that could actually come to fruition that I think a lot of younger people will get excited about.
Yeah, Trump was dumb. Trump was trying to do it, but again, he was like, using a sledgehammer. I think they'll do something more sophisticated where they'll give the American social media brands an opportunity to create a platform that's very similar to TikTok. And to do that without, again, there'll be no so-called infringement on copyrights. There'll be no infringement on trademarking. There'll be no infringement on anything that allows the American companies to sort of do something very similar to TikTok. And then you're right, they'll slowly cut it down or shut it down here in the United States and the rest of the Western world. And they'll feed you this garbage like, oh, it's collecting your data. It's like, it's all of you are collecting the data. So if you're shutting one down, then you got to shut all that shit. All of it is collecting data. It's not just TikTok that's collecting data. It's like it's going to fall into a foreign entity. I was like, you know what? Google is a foreign entity to me. Like, they're collecting my data. So if the corporations collected to sell me something, that's okay. But if the Chinese collected to sell me something, then the world is coming to an end. Yeah. So no, I agree. I think they're going to definitely do something like that. They're going to do it soon.
Yeah, I think so too. Anyway, gang, thank you all for being here. I'm sorry. Hey, doctor.
Hey, what's up? Nah, this technology is crazy. I mean, especially when I walked into a Ashley's Furniture the other day, and then next thing you know, I'm seeing Ashley ads all on my phone. But I don't mean to bring up old but since you was talking about it, could you imagine, fellas? Just imagine this. If they put a track on your phone every time you masturbated and said that you're killing your seeds, every time you masturbated, we would be up in arms and third legs. I am telling you, it would be crazy. Just think about it. They was like, you're killing your seeds every time you masturbate, fellas. We would be up in arms. So let's make sure we up in arms with these sisters too.
Yes, please. And there's a bunch of jokes, I'm paraphrasing this. But if men could get pregnant, you could get an abortion at the gas station, dog. Like, you feel me? Like you can go to CVS and walk in and get yeah, have a seat. There's a long line of brothers in front of you. You know what I'm saying?
But what he's, I mean, in a weird way, it's interestingly true that again could be another step taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for some of us, that might be 2 or 3 times a day we might get.
Exactly. I mean, the free porn that's on your phones now. Not saying I know about it, but
I don't know about it at all.
Yeah.
All right, can we do a break? I gotta go do something on my phone right now.
On the Remix Morning Show. Yeah. What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe button. We're going to take a quick break. And remember, this is 50 years of hip hop we are celebrating. So I thought, who could we talk about right here, right now in 50 years of hip hop? No other than, let's give them a little bit of this. What you gonna do when I flow? 'Cause man, no other than Trends of Culture. Trends of Culture. You're like, who are these guys? Man, let me tell you about Trends of Culture. They had pretty much 2 songs that came out. If you're talking about 1 or 2 hit wonders, they was one of the first groups signed to Motown's hip hop label. They came straight out of Harlem. It's a trio of them. It was let me see. You had Nasty, you had Grapevine, and you had DJ MOL. These were the 3 that laid down one song as you hear right now, Off and On, and they also had a song called Valley of the Skins. So this was a time in hip hop when you had a lot of music was sounding the same, but then at the same time it was so many different styles. So this one right here reminded me of it gave me the kind of Lords of the Underground sound, but anyway, that's what it is. So I just wanted to put y'all up on a quick group that had some pretty dope songs. This came out in 1993. So they only had 2 albums. Their second album was a dud, didn't even make it out. And their first album didn't make it too far neither. It was just pretty much those 2 singles. With that said, let's go ahead and get back to the Remix Morning Crew. You know how we do.
Yeah, Doctor, I appreciate digging in the crates to find some obscure artists, you know, from yesteryear, whatever. But are we doing no hit wonders now? I mean, no hit wonders, though?
Yo, that was the joint. That was the joint in the 93. Yo, yay, though I walk through the valley of the skins. What? Come on. Okay.
Where? It was the joint where? Where was it the joint?
It was like a regional hit. It's a regional hit.
I guess it was. I guess
South Jersey.
Nah, they was from yeah, maybe. But I was listening to them when they came out. You know, the video music box and all that stuff. They play their videos all the time. So big up to Trends of Culture.
I guess that was the old school, you know, I will say payola, but not really, where I guess I would assume the artist and its label would call up the box and request the video.
I mean, box. Motown had pools, so they was like, listen, we starting our hip hop label. We need y'all to play this. So
woo, Motown. Yeah. How did that hip hop label go? Was they were they the only artist? I mean, were there any successes? Were there any hits from that Motown rap endeavor? Because I can't think of one.
I had to dig in the crates for that. But real quick, guess who I ran into this weekend?
Who?
These guys. Kalanji and Minister Server. That's right.
Whoa!
At the
High invited.
Yeah, you're right. It was at the High Museum when we was talking about. It was an exhibit on spirits, as in the spirit world, as in understanding different practices. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. Different type of practices from Yorubas, Ifa.
And y'all all just happened to be there. You didn't know each other was going to be there.
No, we was going to go. The sister Taj came and gave the presentation. It was very dope. You know what I'm saying? So you get to learn about giving respect to your ancestors, not just always just one god, a deity, or blah, 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 but more giving respect to your ancestors. Because even for those who don't believe in a higher being, I'm sure they understand that they have ancestors. So giving
the
them
ones
respect.
that are dead. Yes, we do.
Yeah, the ones that that did
Died.
something.
The one that died.
Pretty much.
So what happened to that show?
What show?
That you guys were all on together.
The
Renegade Culture, you stupid. I can't.
Hold on. I'm gonna put this out to Kalanji. I hope he's watching. But whoever the sister is, can she come on here and teach us about your Orishas and all that? Because we need some of that, y'all. We got too much white Jesus, not enough black Jesus, and definitely not enough black other. You know what I'm saying? In terms of our spiritual connectiveness. I would like more of that. And I want to hear more about like rituals like that, for example, the Christian doctrine would be like, oh, that's a cult and that's witchcraft. But no, it's actually native to the continent, and the whites called it witchcraft because they were the devils. But regardless, like I want some of that. Give me some of that. Kalani, bring your sis up here.
Don't they do the smoke? The Catholics, they do a whole thing. How they gonna call somebody else stuff with the smoke and the whole
the sage?
Whatever they be doing, like anytime you use a Catholic ceremony, they have like the smoke coming out the little metal thing, the metal ball, and they doing all that.
It's sage.
Yeah.
Whatever, y'all.
Anyway, but
and that holy water thing. What's up with the throwing the even the baptism? I mean, you're just gonna pour somebody in water and everything. I mean, come on now, come on.
I ain't gonna front. I missed the crackers and the grape juice on the first Sundays. That was the bomb. But anyway,
pedophilia. Can't you go to the store and get you some crackers and grape juice on the first?
Not how they broke it up and put it in them little glasses. But yeah. So that's what it is. We're gonna get her on. Actually, you can go back and check out a Renegade Culture. We had her on for one of the Renegade Cultures previously.
Wonderful. So I would love to see that.
Do we have our guests? I can't see anything.
Yes, we do. We have our guests. Oh. So let me get up out of here so we can go ahead and bring our guests on right here on the Remix Morning Show.
Kim, you stay with us.
Okay. Thank you. Right. Thank you so much, Ear Doctor.
Let's get it.
Good morning. Should I do this part? Should I do this intro? Okay. Good morning. Renegade. I was going to say Renegade. See, now you got me in Renegade mode. Remix Morning Show. Folks, thanks for joining us. I'm sure we have good numbers. I can't see none of that because my computer is broken. I'm using my child's computer. So y'all, please forgive me. I'm here with Burn It Down, Kim Brown, and our special guest coming in who woke up early. I can tell he woke up early for this and he's feeling it. He's always said one of the reasons he could never be a co-host on Remix Morning Show was the hours. So we really appreciate Two Black coming up, getting up early to talk about a really, really important matter. In case, give us an update. In the case we're talking about is the Pendleton 2. So Two Black, welcome so much for coming on and joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm like you said, it's early, but I'm here. I logged in earlier, man. What's going on? Did they take your electricity?
Well, I got my lights back, but my kids basically, I think they broke my computer and they're not taking responsibility for it.
Cop City shit or something.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, I can't blame. I would like to blame the state.
Like I thought you were held hostage or something because it was like mad dark.
I moved the lights around. I thought it was a little better. I moved the lights around.
Yeah, whatevs. Anyway, Two Black, good morning, man. Thank you so much for making a point to be on here with us. So break it down. What's going on? You said, is it the Pendulum 2? What was the name of the political prisoners?
The Pendleton 2. I can, do y'all have the story? If not, I can send that over real quick.
No, I have it. I pulled it up right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so some people on BPM know about the story, but I'll re-explain it as if no one's ever heard it. So about I don't know, maybe over a year ago, about a year ago, Black Miss Podcast, actually a year, because it was March of last year. We interviewed, but when it down knows the Pendleton 2, that's Christopher Naeem Trotter and John Balagoon Cole. They're two political prisoners here in Indiana. So their story goes I'm gonna tell the short version first, and we can get into some questions. Because this article in Truth Out gives a pretty extensive breakdown of what happened. It has testimony from people who were there, as well as the gentlemen who were involved. But essentially, they were in a Pendleton prison at the time, was known as Indiana Reformatory Prison. This prison was, rampant with racism, like most prisons, but this one was like actually ran. They didn't know at the time, but it came out later. It was actually ran by guards who were part of a white supremacist group known as the Sons of Light, which was a Klan splinter group. So there's a deposition from one of the guards who worked there named Michael Richardson. Talks about how the guards used to babysit his kids, and the kids used to play with Klan robes. And they used to leave literature around the prison, letting people, like, trying to recruit people into this group. So these are the people who ran it, and it wasn't just like low level guards. This was lieutenants. This was like captains. This was all throughout the prison, different levels of leadership. So that's a little bit of backdrop. In this article talks about there were actually class action lawsuits, even by some of the guards who worked there, because they felt very endangered by this environment. Because people regularly were beat up by the prisons, particularly black inmates were targeted by the guards. So on 1985 February 1st, there was an uprising started by the Sons of Light, or this Klan group, where on the maximum security unit they went to quote unquote check on everybody, or like make sure folks didn't have weapons. So they were doing shakedowns. They did about 3 or 4 shakedowns this day. And actually the normal person who worked that unit wasn't there that day, interestingly enough. And that person usually kept, relative to prison, a decent, relationship with the prisoners. And that person wasn't there that day. So then they go in to shake up the inmate's cell. Particularly, they wanted to target one inmate by the name of Lincoln Love, aka Lokmar. So they go into his cell. Everybody's already stripped down the shower shoes and the t-shirt at this point. And they go in with billy clubs, tear gas, riot gear, and they just beat the shit out of him. Like, just beat him damn near to death. So after they beat him, they hit him in his head. He's handcuffed while they're beating him, by the way. Beat him near to death. Then they drag him out of the cell to show everybody else, like what had happened. And they start telling the other prisoners, "You're next." Right. So the people who are on that unit shout out, like, "Yo, they trying to kill us down here. Like, go get help, go get help." So there was more than 2 gentlemen that came to help, but the 2 who led the people who eventually came was Balagoon and Naeem, or John Balagoon Cole, and Christopher Naeem Trotter. So initially, Balagoon was called by this brother named Kevin Murphy. This is now they had dragged Lincoln Love at this point to the captain's office inside the prison. I think some folks said they had noticed he was being dragged across the yard. Again, this is after he's been beat, basically senseless at this point, right? And they took him behind the there's this curtain, and usually in the prison it was symbolized, if you were behind this curtain, that's usually when they were beating someone up, right? So Kevin Murphy sees this, goes to get Balagoon. Balagoon comes, doesn't have enough people, goes and gets reinforcements, comes back with Christopher Trotter. Initially, they peacefully approached him, was like, "Yo, y'all just need to stop beating this man," right? They didn't come at it violently, and then the guards attacked them. They got into a scuffle. So then, there's calls to, come get him or whatever. So they're still trying to find Lincoln Love. They never can actually get to where he's at. They find out later he was in the infirmary. But at this point, guards are chasing them with trucks, billy clubs, mace, and the order is to kill them. The order was already, I forgot to say, and this is testified to by the same guard, Michael Richardson, it was, quote, "Kill the son of a bitch." That was the order for Lincoln Love. So they're trying to save this man's life, right? Like, they intervene to save this man's life, because the logical thought was that he was going to be killed if they didn't intervene, and I'm pretty sure it would have happened. But they had to take all the guards to chase them, so that took attention off Lincoln Love. And then in an attempt to, as the guards were trying to chase them and ultimately kill them, they took several days in the Pendleton too, and others took several hostages, went into Cell House J, took over the prison for about 15 hours, had a series of demands like more rec time, better food, more diverse guard staff, really just basic like amenities to make prison a somewhat livable situation. They weren't even asking for anything wild. And then, it was about 15 hours. They called National Guard. They called journalists in from the Indianapolis Recorder and Indianapolis Star to be witnesses. They agreed that there would be no retaliation for this takeover. No one died, even though they did stab a few guards when they were fighting. No one died. And then they go to trial. It's an all-white jury. The jury doesn't get to hear any of the evidence, that's in their favor. So the fact that they're white supremacists, they don't get to hear that. They actually say that the beating of Lincoln Love was irrelevant, to their actions. They don't get to hear about the conditions of the prison, the lawsuits that even guards had against the prison, all the stuff that actually shapes why their state of mind was what it was to go defend what in legal terms is a defense of a third person. All those things were denied. Like the prosecutor would object, the judge would grant it. And you can read the transcript and it would just go over and over like that. So eventually they're sentenced to 142 years for Naeem Shrader, and then 84 years for Balagoon Cole, right? And then subsequently after that, they spent Balagoon spent 32 years and 5 months in solitary confinement, and then Naeem spent about 20 years in solitary confinement, and they were moved throughout different maximum security units throughout the state, whether that was MCC or the SHU unit, and they had to engage in hunger strikes and lawsuits to even get some of those units shut down or at least reduced, from the level of depravity that was occurring inside it. So that's the story. I mean, y'all are open to ask questions, but there one more thing before I open it up. Like, I'm part of a defense committee for the Pendleton too. That's why I'm representing it. So we sent out a press release and help get that story published and truth out. I've been doing organizing work here in Indiana. We have a documentary about this incident or about this story that we're going to be putting out soon. We're going to actually be doing screenings with BAP, going to be doing screenings locally here with churches, and it'll be available online here soon. I'm not quite ready to announce all those details just yet. And then, we'll be doing political education and things of that nature around it. So.
One of the things I find most amazing about the story, I shouldn't even say amazing, but one of the things that I find most troubling, when you mentioned the court's refusal to even hear about motivation, the sort of motivation behind it, and they don't care, obviously, because, and not only do they not care, they already understand that they're running a white supremacist prison system. And so therefore, how dare you even attack it, right? How dare you fight back against it? How dare you not do anything but allow us to kill you, treat you as a subhuman, put you in certain positions of fragility where your life is continually and constantly in danger. And that's the psyche in which you live under. And if you dare stand up and fight back against it, what these folks did, this is the expected outcome. No hearing of your rationale, reasons, causes, your essential defense to what you did. You can't even present that because you have no right whatsoever except to get beat down and killed and to plead for mercy. And that's what they expect. That's what they expected out of these folks who decided to not only defend somebody, but fight back around creating better prison conditions and living conditions for themselves and their fellow inmates. So that's really, for me, part of it that just hits home and stuff like that. So it feels like, in terms of getting information out, the Defense Committee has done a good job of starting to get more information out. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like more people are starting to hear about this case? And how is that helping the folks inside, just in terms of encouragement? And then two, are there additional legal strategies that you see coming forward? Obviously, outside of the potentially, I'm assuming there's some more appeals, or has this been appealed out, and this is more about an avenue of getting either clemency from the governor? So what is the remaining legal strategy try to address the issue for these two folks.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the question of more information getting out, yeah, I think it's getting there. I mean, we've been organizing on this for over almost a year now, and there's been some challenges to get it, particularly locally, to get more exposure. I mean, we've been in all the major outlets, but getting people to actually do something more than be like, "Oh my God, this is terrible," like that's the real organizing challenge, is getting beyond just folks kind of like, perform sympathy. So that's what we're trying to figure out. So I think this documentary will be helpful because now we can invite people to a place to actually physically to a place to sit and watch it. And we have some screenings set up, and I think the documentary is pretty well done too. So it's also a quality film. As far as other things, as far as the legal side, yeah, I mean, in a situation like this, even though we say the Pendleton too, like each person has slightly different, legal situation. So like Naeem got hit with attempted murder plus solitary confinement and rioting, versus Balagoon didn't get the attempted murder charge. Naeem's, I think, exhausted more of his appeals than Balagoon, but right now he has what's called a post-conviction relief in, and then Balagoon's looking for a sentence modification because both of them have already served 40 years. So our position is, even if for whatever reason you think they deserve to be sentenced, they've clearly served more than enough time, right? So there's no reason. I mean, these men are older. Their health is failing. Like Balagoon had a tumor incident, just over the summer. So there's really no reason to keep them locked up. They're not threats to anyone. So again, this isn't particularly my politic as far as like that they're innocent or guilty. I think sometimes those things play in certain tropes. But even if people believe that they're guilty, there's no need for them to stay in prison. So, that's kind of the legal track right now. But honestly, in Indiana, where I've heard even worse situations as far as like where the judge has even more evidence to overturn the case, like DNA evidence, and they still won't do it. So it's just going to require, actual organizing in the groundswell. There's no way this is going to happen based off of just legal court things. Because lastly, in 2019, Naeem actually got his sentence vacated, right? And he's again, this person with 142 years. The judge who vacated it was removed, and he was replaced by another judge, who then resentenced him to 122 years. So,
So Two Black, you talk about trying to move this issue beyond people being simply aware of it and the organizing work that goes into taking action. What are the actions that people who are now learning about the story of these two brothers, what can be done from the outside?
Well, I think even in the story, and if you go to the Pendleton 2 social media, literally it's just the Pendleton 2.
Can you spell it? I keep hearing Pendleton. What can you spell it for me, please?
I'm not the greatest at spelling, but Pendleton, I believe.
Okay. Thank
Pendleton 2. And you can sign. There are petitions that we have, so you can sign a petition to the governor for clemency. There's one petition where you put your signature in, or there's one form which you put your signature in. It goes to like two different things. So there's a clemency to the governor, and then there's also advocacy for sentence modification. This helps because when a lawyer wants to go in and advocate for the client, if they have a bunch of signatures, that shows it at the very least that this person has support, and that goes a way in showing that this person isn't a complete deviant or whatever they're going to conceive it as. So that helps. We actually have collected a decent amount of signatures, and we're using some of that for the next phase, particularly with Balagoon as he tries to get sentence modification. So that's at the end of the story and the truth out. But again, so you can click on that if that's in the chat, and then you can also go to social media and click on that. Click on the link and then the link tree and go there, and you can sign that. And also Black Myths will be doing an interview later this month with them, some of the stuff that we couldn't fit in the documentary, with them talking about solitary confinement. So there'll be other opportunities to do this, and anybody that follows me online, just hit me up and I can send you that form.
I had a curiosity question. Were these folks at the time, they were not like politicized, if I'm not mistaken, right? They weren't like overtly politicized people. And it was through this process. They were, go ahead. Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Yeah, they were already organizing before this occurred. So they had a group called the Black Dragons, and they were already organizing prisoners against the prison guards because of the brutality that they were facing. So often they would intervene if prisoners had beef with each other and try to like get them to settle that, and they were doing political education and things of that nature. So they already were up on a lot of the new African, literature even back then, which I think is what helped arm them to be ready for that moment, right? Like it wasn't random necessarily. They already had a tight bond. So, just quickly for people who know about political prisoners, we often hear about them. I'm sure most people watch this show know this difference, but like people think about political prisoners as just something on the outside. They get hit with some kind of charge because they were doing some type of, radical thing, and then they get sent to prison, punished particularly for their politics. But you can be in prison. George Jackson is an example of this, and you can be charged inside prison for your activity. And that's why we call them political prisoners, because again, no one even died in this incident, yet they both got de facto life sentences. So this is clearly a message beyond just, oh, they rioted a little bit. Like you're clearly trying to send a message for them to, not, for this type of activity to not happen ever again. And then within the Indiana prisons, regardless how people feel about the comparison, people look at this like Indiana's Attica. Like this is what I've been told from the inside. Wow. So it's very well, like there's a high reverence for this moment within the prison, even though a lot of people outside don't know it.
What is the status about the officers, the correctional officers and their white supremacist cell that they were operating? I'm assuming it's still happening. Did state officials pretend to even care about white supremacists running the prison as correctional officers?
They claimed at the time that the FBI and the state of Indiana both said they were going to do an investigation into the claims, because they were into like just the brutality of the prison because of this uprising and such. But we've never seen the investigation, and when I looked it up in newspaper archives, there was never any external release of the investigation. So we don't know what they found and if they even found or even tried to find anything. But it never was made public. But white supremacists, guard gangs is actually fairly regular in prison. I don't think people are aware. Not just in Indiana, particularly in Indiana, but not just in Indiana. But the DOC doesn't, tends to act like those things aren't happening. So nothing was ever found. I think one person did go to prison for violating Lincoln Love's civil rights. Lincoln Love, the person who was beat up, actually did get a settlement due to this. Even though he was still in prison for life. So there is evidence. There's even a lawsuit that I think Lieutenant Wicker, who was one of the main people who beat up Lincoln Love, and he was actually mad because they fired him and he was trying to get his job back. But in the lawsuit, you actually see a reference where the superintendent is like, we fired you because you went around and you beat Lincoln Love and you told people not to testify to it. You basically got people to lie about it. So this evidence is out here, but
so it's clear. Yeah, it's clear that he was beaten up by the guards.
Yeah,
so clear that they had to give a monetary settlement, but somehow the folks who tried to stop the beating from taking place, as opposed to being given some justice over the fact that they tried to stop guards from beating someone, they would rather that person have died and given these folks more of a sentence than that they would have intervened to try to stop this brutality, this potential killing from taking place or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious. Again, this is why we say this is political. Like, you don't want anyone. I think I posted online something like, and we say this in the documentary, when George Floyd was killed, and this isn't a judgment on anyone, but people watched and they filmed it and they responded to it afterwards he was killed. So this is equivalent to if somebody threw a brick at Derek Chauvin or something else while he was stepping on his neck and actually intervened. This is equivalent to that, right? Like think about it, like they actually intervened so we didn't have to like mourn the loss of a life. They actually jumped in, and they don't want people doing that, right? So they send a message that you're not supposed to jump in, right? You don't stop us when we're beating one of your people. Like, you can write a letter, you can protest it, but you can't actually defend them, in a very physical, material sense. Like, the state doesn't want anybody thinking like that. So they sent that message, very loud and clear in court. And that's a message they want to send to people outside of court. Like, you shouldn't be thinking like that even out here. So, imagine if more people intervened in these cases. Like, those people would get the same punishment unless we had their backs.
Speaking of intervening, we have another interview coming up. I know you can't read, Kamal, so
that's the type of production skills we have here. I just asked you in the chat. You see Too Black? That's why we need you to come on in the morning time.
That's why I stay asleep.
That's why you stay asleep. Well, anyway, on that note, we want to thank you for coming on. And we're going to put up the information in the chat for folks to go to on how to find out more about the Pendleton 2, the article that was just written, how they can get involved. If they follow the link tree, they can find a whole bunch of new information. I think it's completely correct for you to end on that note of you can observe, you can document, you can watch, but that's the state wants to maintain its ability to use force. And anyone that tries to intervene and stop a life from being taken immediately gets branded either as a criminal or violent and the rest of it, and faces more charges because the state wants to reserve that right to use force of any kind whatsoever, even in their wrongdoing. They prefer to have that overwhelming right and to stop anybody and all of us. And so that's why we particularly have to defend these folks. They got involved, they stopped somebody potentially from getting killed, and their reward for that was basically life in prison.
Right.
So yeah. So thank you so much for coming and joining us. Let's take a quick transition break. We'll be come right back with the Remix Morning Show.
All right. Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show as we take a quick break and make our transition into another dope interview we got coming up. Wanted to talk about a certain a song or artist spotlight real quick. Y'all remember this song right here? Yeah, A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. When you hear that song right there, you would think of a group like this, right? Like 80s band. They came out and killed it during the break dancing era. But guess what, y'all? The name of that group is Freeze, and they look like this. That's right. Got him. They sure did get y'all. Y'all sure did think they look like this, but no, they look like this. Actually, Freeze was a group that came out of Britain, and they came out, and that song dropped for the Beat Street movie. It came out in the 80s for the Beat Street movie. And it was redone by Arthur Baker. He produced it and put it out there. And yeah, I thought it was always black people singing that song, but guess what? You learn something new every day. And that's what it is. That's a quick break. So you learn something new about A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. Now we do have a dope interview coming up. So make sure y'all stay tuned right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Look what the ants drug in. What's happening? How y'all feeling out there? Remix Morning Show. You know what we do around here. Kalanji Chung, I'm in the building. Wanted to come on today and talk about some police terrorism. You know, they always do what they do, so we do what we do. We come on board. Shout out to the remixers out there who have been faithful following and rolling with us. There's a brother up in Paterson, New Jersey, who was a anti-violence, stop the violence counselor, and he was actually murdered by the police. So as we do, we always had folks on the streets, on the ground, in different places. So I called on a couple of my comrades to talk about exactly what happened. So stay tuned, and I'll have two of my brothers come tell us what the deal is with this brother. Remix Morning Show. Peace. What's going on, fam?
Hey, Kalanji, what's happening, my brother?
Man, I'm alive on arrival. I see we got the notorious DBW. DBW with you today. What's going on, comrades? How you?
I'm fine. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Good. See you calling in from Africa today, huh?
And it's the global village, brother. Everybody.
You muted your mic. Your mic's muted, comrade.
Oh, I muted it again? No, I didn't. You muted me.
You good now.
Yeah, because you muted me, man. You didn't want to hear what I had to say.
You know how that. I'm noticing a lot of echoes. I don't know what's going on.
Oh no, because I got this on the big screen too. So let me take the sound. Let me take the sound off. Okay, there's no echo, right?
Cool. You good to go? You good to go now, man?
Okay.
Now I still hear it for some reason.
There's something. That's not me.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm at my house, so I don't know how good the connection's going to be, how stable it is.
Okay. Cool. Well, for whatever reason, there's slight echo. I'm gonna mute you for a second. Peace. Okay. All right. That echo's gone. We're gonna start off with Bilal, and then we'll bring Daruba in. Bilal, what's happening, brother? How you feeling today?
Hey, man, it's like one day at a time, man. Trying to make sense of this here, which is a stretch, because you can't make sense of this. It continues, to happen, and our people have to begin to look at this police terrorism for what it is, and look at another approach strategy. I often think about the movie The Godfather, when they killed the Godfather's son, and he brought all of the family to the table, and gave him an offer that he could not refuse. And this is what this is exactly what's going to have to happen, man. We can't keep watching our people just slaughtered in the streets and just marching, because that's not changing anything. Cutting cameras on. People are talking about cameras, sensitivity training. This is a bunch of BS, because you can't train, man, a psychopath.
Right. For folks who are not familiar, because oftentimes we take for granted that because we know what's going on, the world should know what's going on, right? Give us a background on who Najee Seabrooks is. I know he's 31 years old, murdered on March 3rd. Give us a little bit of background. I know you you have ties with the family, and aside from that, you know what's going on in the streets right now. So walk us to where we are, then we're going to get analysis from D.
Okay, well, Najee, was a basketball coach. He was a basketball coach. Involved with the Patterson Healing Collective. The group. These are grassroots brothers and sisters that we've done work with them over the years, and they put this here collective together some years ago, and they go into the interior of the neighborhoods and begin to recruit brothers and sisters, bring them into the formation so that we can get some handle on the internal conflict that is sending so many of our young brothers and sisters to the cemetery at an early age. So he was definitely engaged in that process. Now, what happened, and a cheerful person, as you can see, every picture, man, of Najee, man, that smile was there. Yeah, that bright smile, man, very cheerful. The last time I actually seen him was at February the 2nd. They had a graduating class for the next group of young brothers and sisters who had graduated to be a part of the Healing Collective and begin to become actively involved in the community. Now on March the 3rd, I mean, I could just play it back to you like this here. I got a text to my phone. Got a text to my phone, that there was a lot of activity down on Mill Street in Patterson, Mill Street and their market. But it was just scant. I didn't know what's what. I was at work. I couldn't get down there because we were busy. And then I heard more information that somebody was shot. Still didn't have enough information. When I got off work, I finds out, that they had killed Nah down there. Based on a call, that he put out, for help. Put the call out to the brothers and sisters that are part of the Patterson Healing Collective, who should have been the first responders. Number one, because they're trained to deal with these here crisis situations. The special agents of the state, the police, did not respect them, told them to stand down, threatened to mace them, and would not allow them to intervene. The texts of how Najee was communicating with everyone that was on the outside, that was right outside of the building, is still in their phones, where he was saying, listen, let me just hear your voice. Hear your voices, I'll come out. Let me hear your voice, because they're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. Yeah, he said this. This is all in the text. We put it on record last week at a city council meeting, and that's what they did. They pushed everybody out of the way while his mother and family were standing outside. We talk about a person, man, that was just in a crisis. He wasn't crazy. He had a crisis as part of the dynamics, man, of a human being. We go through emotional and rational cycles of imbalance sometimes. And he reached out to his people, and they murdered him, brother. Straight up murder.
So basically, he for the record, he calls his people. He's having some type of crisis, and I understand that his team comes out who are qualified and certified in regarding to dealing with mental health issues and crisis, so on and so forth. And the police refuse to let them in. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so they gun him down, and after
and
they
brought
gun him down,
and brought him out naked, the same way they would take the African and tie him up and whip him before the whole community, as to send a psychological message.
So you mean to tell me that they murder him? His family's outside.
Absolutely.
They carry him out naked. What was I mean, what did they say? What was their excuse? What was their, because I understand that they're saying it was some type of standoff, but I mean there was no one in the house, correct?
There was no hostage there or anything. I mean, he was having the problem. He was in the house right there, and I mean, if you can believe this, which I'm sure you won't believe this, said they had the audacity to print in the newspaper out here in Patterson that 3 high-ranking anonymous officials went on record to say that they use less lethal methods to bring them out, and the less lethal was their gun. Could you? I mean, can you believe that? That they shot their guns and said that was less lethal because there was some water on the floor.
Okay, so it was less lethal than them bombing the house like they did Move, I guess, huh?
Yeah,
it was less lethal than that. I mean, this shit is amazing. I mean, so has there been any Have they released any body cams, or is there any footage, or what's the deal with that?
No body cam or anything has been released. We are calling for that every day. In fact, when I get off here, we'll be calling the Attorney General's office and ask for the release of the body cam. The only thing they did release was they released the names of these here armed agents of the state that continue to practice terrorism in our neighborhoods.
So they did release the names. So what has been the community's response?
Well, the community, man, is deeply, man, traumatized, by this here, the public execution of Najee, man. It has really affected the entire, man, spectrum of our community. There's been several demos. I'm sure there's going to be a big one today because there's a live city council meeting where this is actually televised, and we're calling on the city council as well, who's sitting there. We don't know why are they just sitting there waiting to hear a response from the AG. They need to open up their goddamn mouths. I mean, with the exception of Councilman Michael Jackson, who was always like the lone fighter on behalf of the people. He's always on the side of what's right when it comes to empowering the people.
No doubt. I want to ask D, since we have him on the line. Drew, what's happening? You can unmute your mic. How did you get involved in this situation?
Comrade Bilal called me and was, we talk often, almost daily, and he told me that this brother Najee was recently killed and murdered, and that Najee had worked with him and some of the interveners there in Patterson. He's a young man, and as he pointed out, he was into physical ed with the local community, the local young folks in the community. And as Bilal had indicated, this is a long line, a long litany of tragic events, where one brother was last seen in police custody and disappeared, and nobody found him. The police don't know what happened. There have been other brutal incidents with the police in Patterson and in Jersey too, and in Newark. But so Bilal reached out to me, and I had asked him, did the family have any type of support? How did was the community relating to their loss? And he said, yeah, the people were very upset, but the family, they had the jackleg preacher and his crew reach out to them, offering to do the funeral expenses. And I had asked, I advised Bilal that he should caution them about who they bring on to be their national or their public spokespeople, and that we would try to reach out to some attorneys to see if they would be interested in helping the family through this crisis and dealing with the prosecutor and the state right now, and the police. I think I just want to point out too that getting legal representation for our slain brothers and sisters and many in the poor community and the black community who cannot afford legal aid or legal assistance is very difficult nowadays because there's very few people attorneys left. In the 60s and early 70s, there were plenty of conscious, active lawyers, black and white, Puerto Rican. We had, of course, we had the Bill Kunslers and in black communities, we've had the Lennox Hines and the Joe Gibbs. And then we had the Robert Boyles and the lead attorney in the Attica case, Liz Fink. We had the law communes. There were attorneys, there were movement attorneys to take on class actions, to take on actions, not necessarily just to win them in court, but to raise the level of consciousness and understanding of local politics and how people can deal with the system that oppresses them. We don't have those types of attorneys anymore. And if we do, they're taking a very low profile. They seem to gravitate to the internet, you know, pontificating on Facebook or on Instagram. But in the trenches, people's lawyers, people's attorneys who would represent the oppressed, who would bring cases against the powerful and against the police unions to educate and liberate our people, these lawyers are far between. Far from. Instead, we have leadership by victimhood, which you and I, Kalanji and Bilal, we've talked about this over the last couple of years, ever since George Floyd murder and the rise of hashtag movements, the encapsulation of genuine liberation struggles, abolitionist movements, the encapsulation by opportunists, by misleadership, by just plain Negroes, bootlickers and with the different agendas. So we don't have leadership anymore by any revolutionary or abolitionist organizations or coalition thereof. What we have are individual groups and individual activists trying to make a difference on the local level in the community, trying to struggle against gentrification, against police murder, against control for public safety, and a whole plethora of other ills that afflict the African community in the U.S. and lower class working people in general. But we don't have a movement. We don't have a broad, mass-based movement that is unified around principles and ideas that are abolitionist in nature, not reformist in context, but abolitionist in nature. And that's not to eschew a reform. That's not to say that certain tactical struggles might require that we mobilize people on a local level to reform a certain policy or reform a certain position that the local or state governments have taken. That doesn't mean that we don't understand that in the long term, in terms of building a mass base, in terms of building a movement that is sovereign in its thinking and independent in its action, that this will take a massive effort of unity to bring us all together, not in terms of uniformity, because it's our diversity that makes us dynamic, and to bring us together in terms of principle and understanding how coalitions and alliances really work, to empower us all. Individually, separately, we can be dealt with, we can be isolated, we can be marginalized. But as a mass movement, that's impossible. It's impossible to marginalize a mass movement of over 40 million people of African ancestry and their allies. So it's very important for us to understand that that today we don't have the type of activist attorneys that we need in order to bring the type of pressure on the state that needs to be brought. And in the case of this brother Najee, we see there's a subplot going on here too, because in Paterson, New Jersey, which is a very low-income working class, community, that there's a large influx of Latino migrants and Latino community in the area. There's a large influx in the area, and we see that this influx has resulted in a shift in the local politics, in the local political arena. Now you have a Latino mayor. You have an increase of Latinos on the Paterson Police Department. In other areas, I think Bilal was trying to say something, but
he's muted. He's muted. I want to say real quick. You mentioned a lack of a movement, and I think that's very important. And I remember, I can't forget, a few years ago, you, Cynthia McKinney, and myself, we formed the National Coalition to Combat Police Terrorism. And one of the things that you introduced to folks was the idea of decentralizing the police. And I think that there's been since then there's been a whole cry of defund the police, so on and so forth. For folks who are new to the platform and new to the concept, if you don't mind, can you break down what decentralization of police is and how important, or is it important right now?
Well, decentralization of the police is was only part and parcel of a broader strategy, which is community and local control of public safety. And public safety includes a whole gamut, a whole range of different institutions. It includes the healthcare institutions. It includes police. It includes sanitation, because public safety is also linked to public health and community and the quality of life in our community. So I'm on the excuse me. I'm on the. So public health involves a lot of different areas. So decentralization of the police was just one part of it. And decentralization of the police was designed to directly affect the command and control structure of local law enforcement. Decentralization of the police simply meant that in some cities and municipalities, the mayor appoints the police chief. It's the mayor who determines the composition of the community review boards, the toothless community review boards. And it's the police unions that exercise an inordinate amount of public policy, inordinate amount of control over public policy, especially on the municipal and city levels. It's the police unions that exercise more control over our elected officials than we do. Our elected officials are more afraid of the police union than they are of the wrath of our community or the opinions in our community. So to change this paradigm, we can put on the local ballot, on the local agendas, the local community ballots during elections, both national and local elections. And we need to understand first that all politics is local. That's what we're talking about here. That liberation begins at home. It begins in our household. It begins in our streets. It begins in our community. It begins in our churches and our masjids. That's where liberation starts. That's where organization starts. We see historically that whenever the church was involved, for instance, in the liberation struggles in the human rights struggles and the voter registration campaigns, that when the church was involved, it mobilized different segments of our community around a common community issue. So all of our institutions really need to be involved in local control of our communities. So having said that, decentralization, therefore, is to put on the ballot that the community is divided into decentralized public safety zones, and each community public safety zone is controlled by the local community. They have their own community public safety board that they could elect and bring local residents onto, and that these boards that also have a line control, a mechanism of control over recruitment and vetting police officers. That decentralization also has an addendum clause to it that requires residency for the period of probation that an officer would undergo before he's certified. In most police departments, it's a year to 2 years. So that means that housing and various facilities have to be upgraded to accommodate local law enforcement who will be living in the community that they police. And this changes the whole paradigm of relationships to ourselves and law enforcement. They're in our community. The fathers and mothers of the kids that are going to school with our kids are also their kids. They have a say-so in the community educational boards and all of these things. So decentralization of police was directly supposed to change the paradigm of power, where local elected officials can appoint the mayor or the city council can appoint a police chief without the input and the say-so or even a referendum from the community itself. So this is how we get police chiefs that come from one venue who are pieces of shit in that venue. They'll come to another venue and they'll become the police chief, and they'll buy into the culture of white supremacy and racist policing. And then before you know it, we're watching another episode on TV with a black police chief and a black mayor apologizing for the murder of a black innocent unarmed black man or woman. You know, so we have all these black faces in high places, and they are totally meaningless. They're totally we have no power, we have no control, especially over these institutions that affect our daily lives. So that's what decentralization was about, changing the command and control structure for appointing police chiefs and to circumvent the power of the unions. Now I want to point out too, in closing, I know I've been kind of long on this, but I want to point out too that a key to this is also organizing working people in their own interests. And one of the mechanisms to do that is to understand the role that the policemen's associations and unions play in controlling the politics and law enforcement in our community. They play a significant role in determining how the police in our communities, who polices, and what's said. And when the murders of our children and our youth are highlighted, it's the police union that steps in between us and justice. So, along with decentralization of the police and community control of public safety, is also we should bring legal actions in the courts, in the federal courts, in the state courts, to decertify the police union, the major police unions in our states and in our cities, because the police are not workers. They are not working class people. They are not workers. They're armed agents of the state. They have special status. They're armed agents of the state. They are civil. They are this civil employment. We pay their taxes, and they have their own Bill of Rights over and above the Bill of Rights that ordinary people have. These pieces of dog doo-doo, these perverted ass pigs, got their own Bill of Rights. Check that out. So the people that murder us in the streets, the first thing that they do is they hide behind the cloak of legitimacy and their Bill of Rights. They don't have to talk to nobody within 24 hours, within 72 hours of killing one of us. They have an automatic attorney who represents them. They take the money from the PBA, which is inadvertently our tax money that goes into their funds, and they defend themselves against us. So we need to understand that the police are not workers, that the union has to be decertified, that these unions should be decertified and reconstituted along lines that comport with their role in society as armed agents of the state. The military, who are also armed agents of the state, but who have no domestic jurisdiction. The military, they don't have a police, they don't have a military union. They have a code of military conduct that they have to adhere to, or that's their ass. But they don't have a union. What if the United States Navy decided they was going to unionize, and they're going to go on strike and say, well, you know, we ain't going to man this aircraft carrier in the Middle East because we don't like the working conditions. That sounds crazy. So why do the armed agents of the state, who have the power of life and death over all other workers, why do they have a union to protect them when they murder us? These crackers need to get put in check. They need to get put in check. They need to get their wig checked, and they need to get their legal status checked.
Hey, as always, we appreciate your analysis, and we definitely got to get you back on, so that before we get back.
You gonna get rid of you gonna get rid of me now?
No, all good. This is how we do around here. But we have to close out. So I want to hear from Bilal real quick on what is it that you think, or that you all are asking for in Patterson at this time? How can we assist, from abroad? And what's the marching orders? You're still on mute, Bilal.
Okay. All right, you got me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we're still calling on, man, the community to call the attorney's office.
Bilal just disappeared. Yes. So
until Bilal comes back, one of the things that we were discussing, we were going to hold a press conference either later today at noon or tomorrow in the morning, that we wanted to hold a press conference. We want to also try to change the paradigm of how this is reported. We wanted to report at this press conference, we wanted to have Black Power Media and the other alternative black medias be the sole conduit for information coming from the press conference. In other words, instead of having all of the major networks there asking questions, we want only the black alternative media to be there asking the questions, and then they will act as a press pool for the rest of the media to give them what's happening with the family and the press. This is something I think we should start to do now, that we should try to begin to do, instead of calling the press conferences and having Fox News and MSNBC there and asking redundant questions designed to mislead and misdirect and propagandize the police version, that we would rather have the black alternative media, Black Power Media, other independent black media, so that when we call for a press conference, these are we stream through our podcast, we stream live, and anybody that wants any questions from the regular media, they would have to get it from you. They would have to use your releases and stuff, and I think that can begin to circumvent the poverty pimps and the ambulance chases and opportunistic attorneys that have been taking all of these cases and have won none of them. We don't have one victory in the criminal court where those who have come forward paying for these funerals have won. We see that even in the case of Chauvin, the piece of shit that was convicted in the George Floyd murder, and his cronies, we see that the standard crew of opportunists that have come forward in all of these cases, from Tamir Wright to now, weren't really involved in that legal case. That's probably why they won. You see, and so we know that there's only people in this to get a bag. Some people are in this to get a bag, to get political clout and political notoriety. I think that we have to understand that we have to deal with this issue in real concrete ways. We have to understand who we are and why we have to act as independent people and look out for our own interests. So I think that what Bilal was getting ready to talk about was the upcoming press conference, how we really want to try to consolidate the black media around these issues and speak directly to them before we talk to the corporate media.
Amen. I think that is a powerful suggestion, and we're gonna put it out there to all our comrades in the black community in general, because I agree with you. We've done enough press conferences where they tried to remix what it is we have to say, and the thing is, we know the questions that need to be asked and answered. So if they want to get that information, indeed, they should definitely have to come to us. And this is something that should be mandatory, and this should be the norm amongst folks who consider themselves a part of any type of movement or have any type of degree of consciousness or whatever the case is, because we already know that the corporate media is the megaphone for the state. So until we control the narrative, they will continue to have us moving as reactionaries. We're running behind them, requesting that they come in and listen to what we have to say, hoping that they report it through their outlets. And to me, it simply means that we have no faith and ourselves. So once again, we're talking about a form, we're talking about segregation, but at the same time, it's about inclusion. So definitely I appreciate, you and Bilal coming on. We passed our time, but definitely it's always a pleasure, and looking forward to having you on again, comrade. Be safe out there.
Okay, you too. Y'all take care of yourselves and power to the people. And let's try to rectify some of this, man. We have to understand that ain't nothing come to a sleeper but a dream. And really, we can't just sit here talking about moaning about our kids and our youth and our family members being murdered and killed by armed agents of the state. We have to organize. We don't have to just get mad. We got to get even. And even means a lot of things to different people, but I'll just leave it like that.
Amen. I know what it means. I know what it means to you. Hey, love you, brother.
Love you, brother. See you later on, man. All right, peace out.
No doubt. Peace. You're checking out the Remix Morning Show. And I know y'all wasn't expecting me to come on board today and bring any guests, but this is what we do around here. So definitely follow the case of Najee Seabrooks. Indeed, I know some folks are talking about us clipping that particular portion. We will. Also, we want to invite you back on. I will have some guests at 7 p.m. on Riot Starter TV. So tap in with me on Riot Starter TV at 7 p.m. tonight. We will have Daughters of the Whirlwind. They actually have a new show coming out. So there's some comrades, some children of some of my OGs. And we definitely gonna have a good time. We're gonna put out some information. Y'all stay tuned. Remix Morning Show, Riot Starter TV tonight at 7 p.m. Black Power Media. Y'all be safe out there. Salute.